You guys, it's just got to a point where my job as a teacher, and I feel like it's not just me, but for other teachers, it's becoming more of a job, like it's becoming more about doing therapy than actually teaching. Like I've had a bit of an insane year teaching wise because I've never taught so many different types of kids from different backgrounds in different types of ways. Because as I've told you guys, since starting doing this other job, which I very, very, very much hate, I've had to basically teach some kids that I teach one-on-one, and they've got some kind of special needs, special education, bad behavior, you name it, right? And can I just say that the batch of kids I've worked with this year, most of which from also the ones that I teach for my own company, but the ones that I'm teaching through this company, majority of them are the age 11 and 12, right? They're 11 and 12. And 11 and 12 is actually my favorite age category to work with because they are old enough that we can start to do some like more interesting things, not just the boring basics. But they're young enough that they haven't yet been completely destroyed by the system mentally. Because one thing I've realized is the big issue that we have, especially when it comes to maths and science, is this. Because you have to have the right mindset and the right way of approaching things and the right way of thinking to do things properly. And just the way that kids are now, like the anxiety, the rushing, the expectation, the this, the that, this is why they're not doing well. This is exactly why. And I'm seeing it everywhere. It's nothing different because even one of the kids from through my own business, if you can imagine, I was on the phone with her mum this past weekend, right? So much went down this last weekend. Like, anyway, so past weekend was literally yesterday. Feels like it was like a week-long weekend. It feels like it was insane. But anyway, so I was on the phone with her because I noticed that like during my lessons, her daughter was a bit detached. So I kind of pulled back on being harder on her because I was just kind of trying to observe what's going on. And then obviously her mum had picked up on things as well. Turns out she's being bullied, right? Now, when me and the mum spoke about it a few days later, I couldn't speak about it when she initially told me because obviously I was still the work week and whatever, still working, whatever. But when the weekend came along, I messaged her and I just said, hey, if you want to like give me a phone call, like feel free. You know what I mean? Because I always like to talk to the parents because a lot of the time I really like the parents of the kids, any parent of any kid ever that I can ever help. I will more than help them with as much information and with much anything as I possibly can. Right. Especially because not all parents are like that. So when I see the parents who are actually properly investing in their children or who genuinely care, are concerned, usually they're not well equipped because of the system and they don't know what's actually going on. So I try to help as best as I can anyway. So she's called me and we talked on the phone for ages, which is again happens to me and parents all the time. And we end up talking for forever. And she was just basically talking about that, you know, why her daughter's getting bullied, what she's found out on her social media, etc., etc. She doesn't know what to do. Can I kind of do less of a lesson and more of a trying to understand, trying to ascertain lesson? And this is becoming quite common. Can I just say, not just for me, but across the board. I have friends, you know, a lot of the issues that I face here, I'm like, maybe it's just the UK, like maybe it's the UK. But I have teacher friends in the US. Like I was talking to one of my friends, she teaches, she lives in Florida, and me and her we speak for hours, like a lot of time on the weekend about stuff going on at work, which we did this weekend as well. And all the issues that I have, everything that I say to you guys, is exactly the same. The other ones, exactly the same. They're all exactly the same. In fact, any of the other friends that I have are also homeschooling or I'm planning on homeschooling. That's if I cross the boundary of still wanting to decide to actually have children, which that would be a miracle. Anyway, so, okay, I'll just accept it. You know what? I'm going to do it but I don't want to delay anything else. I'm sorry, God. Okay, I'm doing it. Miracle not needed. Understood. I'm doing it. So when I have my own children, the fear of God is heavy in me at the moment. Yeah, so when I talk to them, it's the exact same story. They the kids, the needs of the kids, like we as the teachers are getting bogged down with just stupid nonsense. So like we want you to, like, I was just looking at this form I'm supposed to fill out for these kids, and there's no even anywhere on the form where that I need to fill, that I can fill out the information that would actually be helpful to feed back to. It's just whatever, we want you to use this system, this traffic light system to highlight your learning objectives and show that this, if the student is currently still progressing, then, and it's like, this isn't helping nobody. It's not helping the kids. And what is actually happening with them is that I'm there in my lessons, and my job has been feeling so redundant recently, because I'm like, I can see the problem. I'm like, and I knew this all the years of teaching, even when I was back in the teaching in the classroom, and normally like in schools and stuff, it was the same story. I'm there teaching the kids, I'm explaining stuff to them. A lot of them, they're lost in the clouds, not because they're not paying attention, not because they're not listening, because they've got something else that's in their mind. And you know how I know that's the case? Because when I go and talk to them, because the first thing I always do at the start of all of my lessons is I always ask the kids how they are. Like, how is everybody? Because first of all, I need to know what platform we're starting from. Like, there's no use me planning and giving them a tougher lesson, and then they come in and they're like, well, actually, I found out this week my dog died, and I'm going to be like, so I'm definitely obviously not going to do what I was going to do before. I'm not gonna kick you while you're down, you know what I'm saying? And this is what I mean about the education system. Like, a lot of older people, you know, will say like, oh, it wasn't like this for us. But there's also a lot of other things that weren't like this for you, that the kids are going through, social media being a big one. And again, parents not really knowing about social media. And I've talked about this, that it's not good enough if you really say that you care about your child to not know what your child is doing on their phone. It's not good enough, because this is what happened with one of the parents who found some very disturbing things that was going on with their child on social media, on TikTok, that they didn't know about, right? And so now all of a sudden, now they're like, oh, I didn't realize this, and I know this because I had social media and stuff when I was at school, and it was different. Like, people can say whatever they want to say. I remember there used to be so much drama online, like in terms of bullying as well, like outside of school, and people it was just really ugly. It amplified the things that already happened in school. It just allowed it to amplify, and then you have access to the entire world, and then it's insane. And I mean, even now, I discovered today, and this is something else I'm going to make a video about today. I didn't know that there was this thing of these female like OnlyFans models and whatevers. I didn't realize that a lot of them are like, you know, there's this barely legal trend. I don't know how many people know about this, but they are these women, right? Like, who are like my age category, which makes me feel sick to my stomach, because I'm like, how are you talking like this to kids? Like, it's disgusting. Listen, my younger brother's only 3 years younger than me, and as far as I'm concerned, he's a baby. And like, so when and anyone who's his age group, I'm like, you're like my baby brother. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're a baby. Bless. You know what I mean? So these guys being like, having this whole trend of like, I want to like promote myself to like the boys who are barely legal. Like, as soon as you're legal, like the day you become legal, the hour you become legal. Now, how do you think that's affecting all of these teenage boys who are online on their phones, and what they have access to on there? And these are what the girls, these OnlyFans models, are taking advantage of, the fact that they're, you know, going through the first, you know, stages of, you know, going through, you know, being young men, going through puberty, etc., etc. And you've got these women promoting themselves to them, right, on TikTok and whatever, saying, oh, I'm going to pop down by the school and blah, 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 blah. I only discovered that today. And obviously that's because I'm not like there's no part of that equation in which I have anything to be involved with. You know what I'm saying? But of course the algorithm delivered, and thank God it did, because the stuff I was seeing, right? Anyways, we're going to talk about that on a separate note, because that's a separate video. What we're talking about here is the mental health. This is what I'm trying to say, that there's so many things affecting the kids' mental health these days. And so they're not listening. They also don't care for the same reason. For here's another reason why they don't care, because now that they've had access to see that the likes of all these KSIs, this, that, and the other, people going viral, people making money, people becoming influencers, right? They don't care about school. They don't care about the school. They have issues that need to be dealt with, because it's like, well, why are you choosing this? Like, even with these young women, I'm like, why is it that your first action here, there's a problem if you're getting to the age of 18 and your plan is, when you leave school, is to go and get a whole bunch of plastic surgery and become an OnlyFans model. Do you think they're listening in class? Do you think when I'm saying you need this education for your future and they're seeing all this stuff happening online, do you think that's translating in any way, shape and form? Do you think they care? They've already been convinced by social media, and they've already been convinced by others, their peers, on top of whatever's probably going on in dysfunction that they might be coming from, which we're all everybody's from dysfunctional families these days. I don't know why we act like that's the rarity. I feel like the functional families are the rarity these days. And when you see them, you can tell, because it's something different, right? So, and even this poor woman who I was speaking to, her and her husband are lovely. I speak at length with both of them. We send emails back and forth and messages throughout the week, with both of them. And they're always telling me that their concerns. What do I think? What do I want to do? Yada, yada, yada. And now they've discovered this on the social media thing. And they're like, and she's like, I don't understand what to do. Like, I don't understand what's happening. And so, now I'm now, into the task of now, like, I don't even have to really be teaching the education. This is why I've been saying for a while that I think my job is actually redundant at this point. The issue that the kids have it's not that they're not listening. It's not that they're focused. It's not that they're the TikTok generation. It's that their needs are not being met. They're not being met, and they're not being looked after. And so therefore, there are all these issues that are going on that are stopping them from getting to where they need to get to. And unfortunately for us and the older adult population, this is the other thing I wanted to just touch on quickly, is that as generations go down, the issues that were from the previous one that were not dealt with are amplified, right? And especially now, because we're in the age of technology, where in the past, people's communities were a lot more small. You only knew the people around your area and wherever you moved to. You didn't have access to what was happening in the entire world all the time. You didn't have access. You was there listening to the radio, doing whatever, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of this stuff is new. And so the effects of these things, I don't think people are truly understanding the degree to which this is actually affecting like the younger generations. You know what I'm saying? And again, some of the issues, because those issues are still perpetuating, because we still didn't deal with it ourselves in the adult population. And so we are now also transferring the same things that were transferred to us onto them, right? Which is why they're reacting like this. And then they're going to have this. And then you see, and that's why I don't understand why people talk about like, we're going to, generational curses, generational curse breakers. I don't think there's as many generational curse breakers out there as people think that they are. To be so for real right now, I don't think there's as many generational curse breakers out there as they think that they are, because the state of the kids, and like I said, when I thought it was just me, but since I made new teacher friends and we've been discussing back and forth, like just what's been going on, what happened with this student and why, and that student and how, and all of that, as I've been with the kids myself, like this year, I've hated my job more than anything, because I just feel so like I'm wasting everybody's time. And I know that like for people who don't really care about the children and who are just there to do a job, a lot of teachers nowadays, will just show up, they tick their checkbox, they tick all the check boxes, right? We have the national curriculum, or you have the specification for whatever subject you teach. They list all your learning objectives already listed there. All you have to essentially do, well, this is how I do it anyways, organize them into the year plan, and then you find activities. So in reality, teachers don't really have to do a lot if they don't actually care. That's why I'm saying this is all redundant. This is why I don't understand why people are so reliant on, let's just send the kids to school. I could just show up, read 3 learning objectives, hand out a worksheet. If you're able to do it, great. Explain it once or twice. If you're able to do it, great. If you can't, you're screwed, you're an idiot, you're silly. I guess you're not going to be our next brain surgeon, and move on. And unfortunately, that's what's actually happening as well at the same time. So they're already coming in with this whole situation of the environment of the world and that we're living in. So they've already got that element, right? And then they've got some teachers, not all, some teachers who are like that, right? And there's a lot more of them. I remember the other day, I was talking with my youngest brother about because I talk to my brother, I always, listen, I said to him, listen, if you ever need help, maths and science, I got you, And actually, he did actually ask me now if I would, he asked me if we could organize to like meet up to do some revision for a topic that he doesn't understand at school, and he was describing to me what his teacher was saying. Now, my youngest brother is the most academic of the three of us, so he is just very naturally good at school. He's one of them kids. So when he tells me that when he's telling me about this stuff with teachers, and I'm like, nah, brother. Nah, I believe him. Number one, I'll go to the school. Listen, if I have to, I'll go to the school. I don't care, by the way. I do not care. And that's another thing that I wish there was more parents doing, going to the freaking schools. Like, because your child comes to tell you something, you better get in that school. You know, one thing that I have to really give my mum so much credit for when I was at school is she always used to believe me, and I would always tell her, and she'd always say, whatever happens, just tell me the truth of what happened and we'll deal with it from there. So even when I would do the wrong thing and I'd get in trouble because I'd actually done the wrong thing, I would just tell her, by the way, I got in trouble for this today because I did this, that, and this. And she'd be like, okay, cool. But then if that for the same reason, that if I told her that a teacher was being unreasonable, then when we would go to, you know, she'd have to come to the school, you know, to do what we call parents' evening, which is, I think you guys in the States call parent-teacher conference. Is that what that is? I don't know what it is, but the equivalent, right? So we, when we would go, I would prep her on all the teachers, and I'll tell her exactly, so Mr. So-and-so and so-and-so, this is what happened, this is what happened, ask him this. I've had to tell parents. I remember one of the ladies that I was helping before, the parents who I was working with who had kids in private school, right before I started teaching a few of them. She told me, I remember when we first started getting to know each other, and I was getting to know like her kids, particularly her daughter. I was questioning certain things. And so it turns out, all in all, right, and this is at a private school, these are the things that the parents don't know. I'm going to start doing lessons for parents, by the way, because I feel like, anyway, so this is at a private education school. So this girl is struggling to do the work, right? Obviously, as everybody does in maths and science, or a lot of people do these days, right? And so we were trying to figure out what's going wrong. And particularly, of course, the two subjects that are the most difficult, maths and chemistry. And I know why maths and chemistry are difficult, because you have to have such a conscientious, like calm, focused, clear, methodical way of thinking. So anxiety can't enter the chat. That's why if anxiety is there, we're already done. If stress is there, we're already done. If panic is there, we're already done, right? If fear of failure is there, we're already done, right? Because you need to have to go through the process. You have to take your time. You have to do it properly, right? So she was telling me, I figured out quite quickly on that, obviously, as always is the case, the first thing I always do with the kids is I give them a range of questions. I don't care. Listen, what I do with all kids to figure out where they're at is I give them not just an age-related exam. I don't do it like that. I give them an exam where like their age group that they're supposed to be at is like the medium level of the questions. The hard questions are like past even what they're supposed to know at their age group. And then the easier questions are like, they should have long done this. So they get the full range so I can see where they actually sit. So I did one of those. And of course, a lot of the times I'm surprised, and so are the kids and so are the parents. Well, I'm not usually surprised, but the kids and the parents, that they usually actually are on the higher end than what they thought they could do. For the questions for their age group and for their, and again, I don't know who decided what age they need to be at what level, because I completely disagree with that whole system entirely. Anyway, so I did one of those with her. I could see she could do it, but she was struggling at school, right? Or had been struggling with her previous chemistry teacher, right? So then I started to say, when we started to have all these conversations, whatever, I said to the mum, I told the mum specific questions to ask at the parents' evening, right? I was like, you need to ask, did he cover all of the entirety of the curriculum in the lesson? Because he didn't. She told me he only covered half of it, right? This is at a private education. This is where a woman is paying 7,000 Great British pound sterling per term, per child, right? For private school, right? And you know what the lessons were? Guess what his lessons were? His lessons were playing a video that one of these online teachers, like somebody like me, makes, right? That's free for the public, and then questions, and giving them questions and giving them handouts of the notes they should be taking to stick into their exercise books, right? And then telling them that whatever he hasn't covered in class, in the specification, they need to go and find out how to do it themselves. And he went on to say that he didn't think that she was capable of doing like the calculation questions and certain types of questions in chemistry, and that she should just let it go because it's not for her. Fast forward, right, after her mum had like pulled her out of school and was like, yeah, will you teach her like the maths and sciences, whatever? I was like, yeah, you know what, why not? Because I wanted to see if I was capable. Like, that's the only reason. I wanted to see if I was capable, and I knew that she was capable. So I was like, I prayed about it. I was like, God, this is a big deal. Like I don't know if I'm teaching all these GCSE papers and she's just been in private school. But lo and behold, guess what? Her best topics were all the hardest topics. You know why? Because those are the ones we were doing. And then after we finished the ones we were doing, she was like, oh yeah, can we actually go back over some of the other ones that she'd done before? And lo and behold, the calculations and all those questions were actually the ones she was the best at. For goodness sake. So this is what I'm saying. And you know what her main issue was? Anxiety. Panicking. So the reason why our lessons worked well is because the first like third, I feel like, of the year, the time I spend with kids is de-escalating wherever their head is at. So slowing down, taking a breather. I say that all the time. Let's take a breath. We do deep breaths. We break things down into small, manageable steps. And I purposefully take my time with them. And then I also hear them out, because like I'm now realizing that the reason why she's struggling so much is because of what her teacher's telling her. Teachers told her she can't do it. Her teacher's just slapping on these slides into the thing and then saying, just go and sit there and stare at a piece of paper and learn it off by heart. And the hardest thing for me to get the kids to learn how to do is to focus on understanding as opposed to reciting, right? And that's why, because you can get away with that with some subjects. You'll never get there with maths and science. I can assure you that it's not going to work. You have to understand what's happening. You have to be able to break down the problem in your mind and understand. And so I'm spending more time dealing with the anxieties, dealing with the why was this happening and why was that. I'm running back and forth between, okay, so you tell me you said what now? I'm going through the exam papers and I'm asking them, what did you do this? Why did you do that? Da, 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 da. I'm calling the parents. I'm like, hey, I think we should catch up because I have something I want to share with you that you might want to be aware of. This woman goes to speak with the teacher. Lo and behold, everything her daughter said was correct. Lo and behold, the issue was, again, the system. And again, these kids that I get to work with, whose parents I work with, they're better off because their parents actually care enough to say, this isn't working. And a lot of the kids that I know who do actually do well, a lot of people who do actually succeed, it's because their parents went out of their way to find solutions, right? And a lot of the kids I know and a lot of the professionals I know, especially people that work in areas to do with maths and science, a lot of those professional parents, right, that I work with, a lot of them are purposely outsourced because they saw something was wrong with the system, they spotted something was off with their kid, and they were like, I need to figure this out. I need to do something different about this. You know, these guys are literally thinking of selling the freaking house, for goodness sake, because of so they can move to a different location, to a different school. Like, the issue here, and what I'm trying to say is about my job, is so much more of my job is spent on the mental health element than is on the teaching. And do you know what's so funny? And I always know this is going to happen because I always say it to people. As soon as people can switch into the right mindset, everything else falls into place. And then they can do it. So people are like, wow, how have you done this? You must be so good. I'm like, I focused on what imagine that. The maths teacher is the one who found the solution. I focused on what the actual problem was. I didn't just think about what the problem was. I didn't just assume what the solution is. I find the solution. If it's not working, we've got to try something else. If it's not working, you got to try something else. You know, and it's got to be what it's got to be. And that's why I keep saying that, like, at this point, like, you know, adults, we need to really rethink about having kids. This is why I've been saying it myself, because I'm like, am I equipped to have the knowledge and the ability to be able to know that, like, I can at least do my best, because all that's required is our best in life. I think this is a misconception that people must have when I'm talking about this stuff, is that I just think parenting is so easy or whatever. Absolutely not. I believe that if you do your best, God will meet you with the rest. I always say that. That's what I believe about life. I believe everything in life, God, you do your best, God will meet you with the rest. So you do your best. Most of the parents, a lot of the things they don't know about in the system, that's why people like teachers exist. So I can tell you, by the way, did you know that this exists? Did you know that that exists? Like, some parents are like, oh my gosh, I'm breaking my back. I'm trying to save money to send my kid to university. I'm like, do you know that you can just get a paid, you can do a paid apprenticeship now these days? You find, if they already know what career path they want to work into, and this is across the board in all the different subjects, you find the career you want. Instead of going to study something like, I don't know, engineering or something and break your back to get the money to go and study it in university, find the company you'd like to work for, find out if they do paid apprenticeships. And a lot of times they'll pay for you your degree, you'll do your degree along work side, and you'll get paid as a university student. And then guess who's first on the list when you need to get hired? So many of the issues and problems are solved just in that alone. This is what I try to explain to people, but people are very, narrow-minded. Even when it comes to exams, I'm telling parents all the time, do you know that you can actually pay for your kids to sit exams? Like, you can just pay yourself. It's not that expensive. So you could get them to sit early if they don't do well, but you're not sure if they're gonna do well, and you want to just have a fail-safe. Book after they do their school exams, like at the exam period, if you want, however they feel about that, book another exam time a month later, right? If you want to. And then whatever they think they wanted to do, at least they can do both. Then they'll get results for both. Maybe they bombed one and they did amazing in the other one. You can just pay for the freaking exams. You can pay the exams, and you can go to the exam centers all over the country. Like, there's so many different things, when it comes to the actual education. That's what I'm saying, that the learning part isn't the hard part. It's the everything else. It's the mental capacity. Because I know, listen, I was so many times in school was just so depressed. I was very depressed at school a lot of the time. I remember I used to hide my earphone in my ear, and I would just be listening to music. I remember and it's just that for me, achieving was the only thing that kept me going. Winning at things and doing well at things, that was like my driving force. I'm also a very high functioning person. So, I remember crying throughout my university exams. I could barely focus. I cried. I remember literally crying throughout my exams and everything like that, because there's just a lot of stuff that I was going through. It just so happens that I'm a very high functioning kind of person, right? So, my solution to my problems is I'm going to do something that makes me feel good about myself, and by feel good about myself, like feel like a winner. So that's why I do that. And then also, like I said, I'm naturally, very naturally, I learned to survive. My survival tactic in life has been to use my head and to shut off my heart as much as humanly possible. So I didn't give myself the time to have emotions, because I was like, listen, you need to get yourself from A to B, because you need to get yourself somewhere. You need to so that's why, hold on a second. Yeah, so that's something that I think people don't realize, that like in school, the mental element is what's really affecting them more than anything. Whatever they've got going on at home, the access to social media. Like, I don't know why we've normalized certain things as well. Like, why do we just accept that bullying happens? Like, you send your child somewhere, like, and I get it. The excuse is always, well, I couldn't take time off work and I couldn't be off work. Well, how about instead of naming more problems, we discuss the solutions? That's my point, because that's the first thing people always say. Because I'm not saying that we need to bring all the kids out of school. I'm not saying that that's the solution. I'm saying that you're a bad parent or a bad whatever if you don't have your kid in school. If you have your kid in school. What I'm saying is that there are problems about them being there that need to be addressed. And one of the biggest problems being the other kids. Because you might be doing everything in your power, right, to do whatever. And sometimes I think parents have slightly unreasonable. I'm like, sometimes I think adults forgot what it was like to be a child. Because I'm like, sometimes there's the things that some parents say is really unreasonable, because it's like, oh, so and so you're going through so. Oh, just ignore them. Just don't tell them you don't want to talk to them. Like, if I was a kid, if I was being bullied in school, there's no way on God's green earth I would have ever told an adult, because it's all nice, well and good, adults saying, speak up if you're going through that. But then when we now, the adults, deal with the situation hella messy, and these person's parents are coming in, and I'm still having to awkwardly sit with that person in the class, and they've told the whole school and whoever else that I was crying about them and that I'm whatever. No one's thinking about those dynamics. And and now I'm supposed to sit here and do algebra. Fantastic. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's just so many like little things that they're not even little things, big things that are affecting why kids are not doing well. And honestly, I've signed out. Mentally, I've signed out. I'm just waiting for the Lord to give me the green light to leave this freaking job. And I just there's no point. There's no point. If anything, I'm better off going and like studying to become a child therapist or something, and like getting a qualification in that. At this point, if anything, and actually this is what my plan is going to be, is I'm going to focus more. I'd rather spend my time focusing on equipping parents better with the information of stuff they don't know, and giving them all the information about things that is going down that they do not know is happening with their children in education. And then we can work together and find solutions to the problems, rather than just having more problems about our problems and the problems with the problems that we've been probleming. And we can actually do something different, because that's my thing. Like, this is why I'm like, look, I'm talking to you guys and being very real when I'm saying about not wanting to have a child, because I'm like, am I equipped? Like, is the world equipped? Are we all serious enough? It's a team effort. I can't do this all by myself. You know what I mean? It's not supposed to be that way. There's supposed to be a village. It takes a village to raise a child. People all show up at baby showers and all this. We do all these events where it's all nice and everybody dresses up and people cry and want to see the baby photos and whatever. But when it comes down to actually being the village, where is the village? Where is the village? The village ain't there. Everybody's washing their hands of the situation. Or what is my absolute complete irritation is doing the classic, the problem with the youth of today. We don't know what happened with them. We don't know the same thing that happened with you, buddy. The same things that are wrong with you, the same reasons why you're an adult still trying to figure things the hell out, because it's a mess. And it's a mess that we just keep on repeating. And at some point, we need to actually like say, you know what, let's find the real problems. Because I can assure you guys right now, with all my lessons, if it was up to me, I wouldn't bother teaching. Majority of the time, I wouldn't bother teaching the actual lesson for maybe a week or two, because we need to just get ourselves to a place where, the kids can actually do the work, and that all the necessary what's the word? Frameworks are there, like all the necessary boundaries, because that's the point. The whole point, I feel like, is part of our job as adults, is we're supposed to make sure that kids are in a safe environment. So that means online, that means in real life, everywhere. We're supposed to be making sure that wherever they are, they're safe, they're being supervised reasonably. There's so much lack of supervision. It's crazy as well, because if you guys want to see what goes on in schools, you can just see on social media. These kids post all this stuff. This is how I find out. I find out a lot of stuff that goes on in schools, because kids literally post what they're secretly hiding and doing in like whatever is the drama at the school at the time. They're secretly doing it. They're doing it on social media. And they're getting away with it. And they know that they will, because they know that the older generation goes, oh, I don't know how to use that TikTok thing. And so it's right in front of you. You could go and see your own very own child's name and username and tag and whatever right underneath all these videos, or them posting this stuff, right? But you don't, because we all just say, oh, we don't know what this technology stuff is. That is one of the most greatest works of the devil, I have to say. This whole notion of, oh, well, we don't really know what all this social media stuff is, so we're just going to kind of just ignore it, kind of. Like, well done. The devil's like, thank you so much. I am so grateful to have you here. I'm so grateful to be here. That's what the devil says when he hears that. Happy to be here. It's just the truth, you guys. I'm just trying to, like I said, I'm a problem solver. To me, if a problem isn't being solved, if I can see that this isn't a solution to the whatever the problem is, I will swiftly move on and find whatever that will be, because it's not good enough. It's not good enough from us as the adult population to keep dropping the ball like this. It's not good enough. So, anyways, I'm going to leave that there. I've got other things to talk about to do with this, because I want to talk about why I believe the devil is very highly. It all hit me. It's all hitting me. A lot of things are hitting me. Anyways, you guys, buckle up and stay tuned. I hope you're enjoying your time here. And yeah, this is stuff is sad to me. There's nothing fun about it. There's nothing nice. It's overwhelming. And I remember this time last year when I made the decision that I was gonna like finally, you know, engage with my feelings again. I knew that it was gonna be so hard, because I knew the back of my mind how how severe the issue was, and I knew I would just feel so overwhelmed with how much would need to change and need to be done. And lo and behold, here we are. So there you are, guys. Anyways, if life's a game, let's play to win. God bless you all. God loves you. I love you, and I'll see you in my next one.